G'day guys, how are we going? Well, here we are on a Monday night having a live chat to you guys. Hopefully everything's going all right, and this is all coming through nice, loud and clear for you guys that are out there. Already got a few on already. Pete and Chris, g'day guys, how you going there? Thanks very much there for dropping in tonight. So if anyone could just let us know that this is all coming through. G'day Greg, how are you? All coming through loud and clear would be really good, and we'll get right into it. Righto, so these are, if you're going to do a big trip now, where I'm going to go with this. G'day, Chuck. How you going there, mate? Off your rig. No worries. Thanks very much. Where I'm going with this, over the next couple of weeks, from the next couple of Sundays, loud and clear a lot to hear that. Thanks very much, guys. Really appreciate that. Loud and clear. Over the next couple of weeks, I'm going to talk you through at least a 10-day trip. Because again, we're all starting to get pretty keen. Things are all going to start to happen in the next few weeks or whatever, going up to leading into Christmas, and everyone's going to want to get away. So I'm going to talk you guys through over the next few weeks a trip from Mansfield right through to Tom Grogan. It's going to be about a 10-day trip. But anyway, we'll go more into that as we get into the next couple of weeks. And so this is sort of a bit of a build-up on spares you got to take, whether it be, for a trip in the high country or maybe heading into Central Australia and those sort of things. Well, that's you can also look into that as well. So I've got a bit of a list here. I've got some stuff over here that I'm going to show you as we get into this, and some spares that I certainly take with my patrol or any sort of trips that I certainly go on. Now, I suppose this is all stuff that, you want to check before you even leave home. So a lot of this is all going to happen before you even head away on that big trip. So one of the first things you want to do with any sort of a decent sort of a trip away is get a major service done on your full drive, like at least a couple of weeks before you plan on heading away. Because the reason why you get it done a few weeks beforehand, like get your mechanic to check it over. Because if something major, they might find something major wrong with it. They've got to order spare parts for it. Well, at least it gives you that couple of weeks window. If they've got to order spare parts, it might be a little bit hard to get. That gives them that time to order those parts and maybe get it all fitted up so you're all ready to go before you head away. So gives you that little bit of peace of mind too, get it done a couple of weeks out before you go, and then your full drive is going to be ready to roll, rather than rushing this through in the week before you got to go, and then you might find something major wrong, and then all hell breaks loose and you start panicking to get it all ready before you head away. So get that full drive well and truly checked out a good couple of weeks before you head away on that big trip. You want to start off with, good, fresh, clean oils, fresh, new oil filters, new air filters, and even especially with high country stuff where it's going to be so dusty over summer. And if you're heading away with a convoy or something like that, you at least maybe want to think about taking a spare air filter as well, particularly on these longer trips that I'm going to talk about over these next few weeks. So at least chuck a spare air filter in. I'm sure there'll be plenty of few guys on here that probably take a good air filter to go away on a big trip, because all that dust and stuff you're going to be taking in through your air intake. So take a good air filter for a spare one. And then when it comes to spares, well, spare hoses and belts and all that sort of stuff. And the one thing too, if you're going to get a major service done, you might be changing, some things over like this. Might be changing your fan belts and whatever over, and you might be putting some new radiator hoses and that sort of stuff on before this big trip. Well, rather than your mechanic chuck those in the bin, grab those and use those for your spares. Because, they're obviously still going right at the moment. As long as there's no holes and no cracks and breaks in any of your belts and hoses, grab those and use those as your spares for your big trip, and even other trips, just chuck them back in your full drive. And you've always got some good spares that are going to get you out of trouble, rather than going and buying, a new set to get fitted up now and then brand new hoses and everything for your trip. Well, nothing wrong with doing that. But if you want to save yourself some bucks, hang on to those spare hoses and the ones that they're going to take off, and put the new ones on. We'll grab those ones as well. And now I'm going to go through a bit of a box here, because this is this box here. This toolbox of mine, this has turned up on a number of my videos, and I've had quite a few people ask me what's in it. Well, tonight I'm going to show you what is in this little box. There's not a great deal in it, but there's a couple of things in here that really, particularly when it comes to a GU, gets me well out of trouble if I need to. Now, one of the first things here is this emergency tape. How many of you guys have got this? This is absolutely fantastic stuff for wrapping around any sort of radiator hoses and that sort of stuff. It's great for high temperature stuff. And one of these rolls has certainly helped me out big time on a trip that I did only a few years ago. We're going up Herne Spur Track on one of the steep sections of a Herne Spur Track. And one of my intercooler hoses blew big time, had a major split in it. And if it wasn't for a roll of this stuff, would have been in all sorts of trouble. But now I actually carry a spare one of those, which is this one here. So that's a specially molded hose with the correct bend on it for my intercooler that comes out of the turbo. And yeah, it got a split in it, and it wasn't for this stuff, which got me out of trouble and got me home no worries. And I just wrapped it round really, really tightly around the split in that hose, and no dramas. And we got home with that stuff. So get yourself a roll of that or two and have that on board. It's fair dinkum is absolute gold, that SOS silicone tape. Really, really good for high temperature stuff. So there's that one. What else have I got in here? Just a few little bolts and stuff like that I certainly take along. And then in here, little box I've got in here. A few bits and pieces I got in there just where I can open it. Just some, just spare nuts and bolts for my, rear shocks, just in case a bolt of those might come loose. So just a few of those that I carry in that little box. Don't take up a great deal of room. Good old bit of duct tape. You can't go too far wrong with duct tape. And just some spare hose clamps. Always good to have a good range of those. You just never know when you might strip one, and one might get broken when you're out there. So I've got a couple of those going on. Now, this is the big one, especially with the GU. And this is my spare fan belt. And with the GU, if you've got one of these are absolute gold, and you must absolutely have a spare one of these. Because if this breaks and you don't have a spare one, you're in all sorts of trouble. Because this one belt drives absolutely everything, which gets me into my next bit that I've got here. And this is another one that got me into trouble when I went to Cape York a good few years ago, which I've got a score to settle with Cape York, because I've been there personally, but the patrol hasn't quite made it. So with mine, this idler pulley. Idler pulley seized on that trip there. I didn't have a spare one of these. I had it replaced probably about 8, 9 months ago, 12 months ago, prior to going to that trip, and this was the last thing I thought of maybe I'm going to need to take. But now, rather than just taking the spare pulley, I take a full assembly. So the whole shoot match is there. It's so much easier to change that rather than having to try and get that undone there and just replace the pulley. So I take the whole lot and a spare belt. And again, these are ones that I've replaced. So absolutely great for spares. And these are now ones that I take along, because if that pulley seizes, you are feeding them in major trouble, world of hurt, because you're not going anywhere. Because these two items here drive everything from your air conditioner, your cooling system, your fan, the whole belt. So you need spare ones of these. I know your full drive might be something similar as well, where you've got to carry this sort of thing. So there's one, particularly if you've got a GU, look at getting one of that full setup for yours. So that one there, again, I've actually got two hoses. I'll take two just in case, or two belts just in case one doesn't work or someone else might need it. And that's pretty much about it in there, just that little toolbox, a couple more little clamps in there, a couple of little bits of hose that I also take in that little box. And that's pretty much that one empty. And then from there, these couple of bits here, just zip ties. You're crazy if you don't go with a range of zip ties. These are amazing what they can hold, whether it be fixing your full drive to something or other, or something breaks and you're on whatever, or you swag, whatever. These are great. So grab yourself a bag of zip ties. The spare radiator or intercooler hose, which I showed you before, I take a full one of those now, and all I do is I just cut it to length. So that's how the length it comes. And then, I just cut it to the length that I need. So I just measured, put the old one up against this one and cut it to the length along those ribs there, and works an absolute treat. Then just another little bit of hose, another bit of intercooler hose there that I certainly take with that, which is actually, I think, the offcut off that. So always handy to have a few extra hoses. And then get into this stuff here. A small roll of wire. Now, it's amazing what you can hold together with some broken shock mounts or suspension mounts or anything like that. Your exhaust might be busted or something like that. You just want to hold it up and so it's not dragging on the ground. A small reel of wire is absolute gold to take. So get yourself maybe looking at something like that to go into your little kit. Now, this is all stuff that doesn't take up a lot of room. It's all very lightweight stuff. Doesn't weigh a great deal. And the other one is this gaffer tape. Again, it's amazing what this stuff will hold together. This is absolutely gold, this stuff too. So get yourself a right roll of gaffer tape. It's as strong as houses, this stuff. It's amazing, what it'll hang on to. So there's some items there. And this one here, just a bottle of brake and clutch fluid. Now, this is one issue that I had a few years ago on Hornet Stream Track, where I wish I had a bottle of this, and this is now why I carry it. Went through one of the little bog holes there, and a log came out of them from underneath it and punched the slave cylinder on the gearbox under there and destroyed it. And so I had to drive all the way out of Hornet Stream Track for about the last 3 crossings without any clutch, because all the clutch fluid drained out of it, and that was the end of that. So this is now why I carry a small bottle of brake and clutch. Again, it doesn't take up a lot of room, so well worth carrying a bottle of that. Now, this one's probably going to be a bit of a surprise one that I reckon a lot of you may not think about, but I take one of these as well. And that's a spare car key. One, you might lose it, might lose the one you're using, or, you could end up locking your doors. Your kids or someone might lock your doors accidentally and your keys are inside it. Well, then you're all in all sorts of bugger. And I just keep it on a strap there. I can put it around my neck and that sort of thing, particularly if you're going camping in the beaches too, where this is really handy. Because if you drop that, in soft sand during summer and that, you drop that, it's not going to disappear in the sand. Whereas if you just drop a key on its own, well, it's fitting. You might be very lucky if you find it again, and I hope you do. But that is never going to get lost in any sort of sand and that sort of thing. And and if I go for a walk or whatever, I can always put it around my neck and leave about bunches of keys in the car, whatever, lock it up and leave it in the car. So a good certainly take yourself a spare key is all sorts of well worth having one of those for your trip. Then we get into, toolkits and all that sort of stuff. You might have seen, I haven't got the toolkit here. It's still out in my car out there, but it's a absolute full kit. It's got all the sockets, spanners for every nut and bolt that you absolutely need. Big two-sided thing with spanners and screwdrivers and all sorts of things, and Allen keys, the whole shoot match. And there's a fair bit of weight in it, but you know what? It's absolutely worth taking that, because you just never know when, something might break or you got to do something up. Well, good toolkit is an absolute must for going on any sort of a long trip. And then the other one is, this is probably one you're going to take with you, but your roof rack mounts. Make sure you check your roof rack mounts for any sort of a big trip. Make sure that it's nice and tight. It's amazing how loose they can become, roof rack mounts, with what we chuck up on there and load them up, and how much we rely on your roof rack. So make sure, have a good look at those and make sure they're all nice and tight before you go heading away on any big trip, that's for sure. Spare tyres, make sure your spare tyres all good. And you've got, some puncture repair kits and that sort of stuff well worth taking for most of these trips. I'm pretty much mainly talk about this for the high country, because if you were going to go like Central Australia or something like that, well, there's probably going to be a lot more spares you're going to want to probably take. You're probably looking to maybe taking 2 spares on a big trip like that, which is what I would do if I was going to go and do a big Central Oz trip into really remote country. And the other thing with your spare tyres is if you've got lock nuts on your vehicle, make sure you've got the actual socket for the locking nut, because if you go and get a flat tyre and you've got a lock nut on there and you haven't got that socket, well, you're in a world of hurt. How are you going to get that tyre off to go and change it? So make sure you've got your socket there for your locking nuts, in case you do get a flat tyre and you've got to change them over. What else have we got in here? And all your jacking system, whatever you got for a jack to jack your vehicle up, make sure you got all the bits, all the handles, that sort of stuff. Like, I'm just still using just the standard jack that came with the Patrol. I just put a big thick timber plate down the ground. It's still high enough then to get underneath my diff housings to change any sort of spares or flats or whatever I get, which very rarely ever get a flat tire. But I'm just using that, just the standard jack. And I've got the handles and that sort of things, but I make sure I've got all those, your wheel braces, all those sort of things. Make sure you got those, even though you could get, if you got really desperate and you've got a good socket set, where you could probably get a socket out of there to undo your wheel nuts if you somehow forgot to take your wheel brace with you on your trip. Yeah, you might, especially with high country stuff, you might look at taking, depends what sort of severe country you're going to go and drive. You might look at taking spare hubs and spare CVs if you've got IFS fronts. Go breaking those sort of things out there. Well, then you've got to try and get either get someone to go and get them or try and get spares and that sort of thing. So yeah, spare hubs and spare CVs, especially with or CVs, especially with your independent front ends and spare hubs for if you go and break a hub. Well, it's good to have a spare one of those, especially in high country, because you can certainly do some pretty nasty damage out there on some of those hardcore tracks. That is for sure. And now, when it comes to carrying extra fuel, this is a question I get asked a lot from people wanting to do a big trip. Particularly with the high country, I don't carry really a great deal of extra fuel. Look, my patrol comes with 120 litres from standard. Now, there might be the odd time where I might carry just one jerry can. Now, it won't hurt to carry just at least one jerry can of fuel, just in case yourself or one of your mates might be getting a little bit light on. But the thing with the high country, there's generally always somewhere you can do a bit of diversion to get out, go to a town somewhere, or Lacola, Dargo, or Mansfield, or over the bright side, just to zip out, top some fuel up, and then come back out if you're back on your trip if you really need to. But if I was going to do a long trip like the one we're going to talk about the next few weeks, I'd certainly take at least one jerry can. And one thing with your jerry can, which I've got down here, this is the attachment that I've got for my jerry can. Now that just clips onto my jerry can, which is there. So that just clips onto the nozzle there. So if you're going to take yourself a jerry can, make sure you've got some sort of a nozzle or a funnel or something to pour the fuel out of your jerry can, because you try and tip that straight out of the jerry can into your where you go and fill up where your filler is for your petrol, your diesel. You're probably going to lose a great deal of it. So make sure you got some sort of something like that, or a funnel to get that fuel from the jerry can into your fuel tank, and then you're not going to go wasting any of it on any of those sort of trips. And the other thing too, what I certainly do if I am carrying spare fuel, I empty the jerry can as soon as I possibly can. So I always start a trip with 120 litres on board, and as my main tank's going down, I'll get rid of the jerry can before I'll start using fuel out of my sub. So that way you're not doing the whole trip with a loaded jerry can sitting in your vehicle or on the back of on the roof of your vehicle, wherever you're going to carry your jerry cans. So get rid of that jerry can as soon as you can. As soon as you start dropping some fuel, empty that jerry can into your main tank, and then carrying on your trip. And then this one is probably a big one, which I don't know, some people may not think about it, and that's your car insurance, your rego, and your roadside assist. I don't know how many of you guys have got roadside assist, but I certainly do. I've got the RSC Total Care, and that covers me for absolutely everything. And so make sure you got all those things up to date. You'd hate to go on a trip and you forgot to pay your rego before you went, or you thought you'd paid it and it hasn't been paid. And then something goes wrong, or you get caught on the road by the police and your rego's not up to date. Well, then you're in all sorts of trouble, and then then it's going to bugger your trip big time. That is for sure. And then the other thing too, which when I'm talking about, especially the GU, when I'm talking about that fan belt and the idler pulley, if I was going to do maybe again now a big trip, sort of Central Australia or something like that, I'd maybe even look at taking a spare air conditioner pump. Now, the reason why I say that, because I've also been in this situation with mine, and I was lucky I was only in Wahala with a good few mates. And the air conditioner pump on my patrol there started to make a horrible squeal, like it was going to seize up. Now, if that idler pull, if the pulley on that air conditioner seizes up on that pump there, if it seizes up, well, then again, you're in all sorts of trouble, because if it doesn't spin, nothing spins, particularly with the patrol. And it's I don't know, it's just a bad design. I don't know what happened from the old days where you had two fan belts, one drove your air conditioner and then another one drove your radiator and that sort of stuff. But those days are well and truly gone. A lot of vehicles these days are all driven by one belt. But that one belt drives so many important things. And so, I might look at doing that, or even spare alternators, those sort of things. If you're going to do, a really good remote Central Australia trip, you might look at maybe carrying a spare alternator as well. So, I don't know, there's just some things there, but just a couple of faults there as far as the patrol goes. It's not that there's many with the GU, but under the bonnet there are a couple, and it all revolves around that belt and that pulley. Can bring you to your trip to a screaming halt really quickly if you don't have spares of both of those items. Leanne, jerry can in case you puncture a line, you could do that too. So if you might get a rock and puncture up one of your fuel tanks, and then you're driving along, you're not realising you drain your tank out. Well, at least you're going to have 20 litres once you patch it up to get yourself back out of trouble and get you going again. So some good few ideas going on there. What else are some of you guys get yourself a battery powered pump to use for the go-karts? Look, I just take my normal pump, my normal compressor to do my tyres and that sort of stuff. But there are other things you can certainly look at. I run a logbook of all the details in the book with me. Look, logbooks are certainly good if you're going to go down that sort of road there. Chuck, always carry a set of piston rings just in case you need a quick rebuild. Look, and that's the other thing too. You've really just got to go through your vehicle and find what potential faults it has got and what could happen with it. And just carry the spares with that. Look, at the end of the day, you can't carry a full mechanical workshop in the back of your four-wheel drive. It's just not going to happen. Look, you can't carry a spare engine up on your roof rack. It just can't happen. So you've just got to try and narrow it down as much as you possibly can, and at the same time, keeping weight down at the same time as well, as to how much you actually do go carrying around. So they're all things, you just got to look at what potential things could go wrong and cover those sort of things. And that's why I certainly cover the belt and the pulley with mine, because that's a big one with Patrol. But hey, look, if it does things like pistons, that sort of stuff, well, then you're looking for a truck to get you out. So I'm not going to worry about doing things like that. That's for sure. Anywhere out there, power steering too. Ouch, power steering's another one. With that sort of thing, and all driven by that one belt. So not good. That Patrol could be in trouble. There's no doubt about that, mate. Drive 4.8 Nissan automatic, so I carry spare starter motor. There you go. So this carry spare starter motor. Again, look, if I was maybe going to do a really long distance remote trip, again, Central Australia or something like that, I'd probably look at these really good big extra things, even though they are pretty heavy with starter motors, alternators, and that sort of stuff. But thick high country, like I said, you can generally always get some help from somewhere. If someone comes past, or someone can generally drive out to a town somewhere within a few hours and get whatever bits and pieces you need if you don't have them. But when you're talking Central Australia, well, you're in all sorts of trouble up there if you don't have all these parts. So you've got to go that next level with what spares you carry on a big trip like that one. CR, how you going there, mate? The Mighty 2H engine is old school. There you go, old school to go. I carry 2 jerry cans if going a long trip. Well, there you go. So, you just know what fuel you're going to need for that. So you take a couple of jerry cans for the old 2H Toyota motor you got there, mate. So as long as it goes all right, that's the main thing. Land drives Toyota. You used to carry spare handbrakes. Don't know why. Is that a spare handbrake to put a rock under the back tyre or something? Because I know the Toyota handbrakes aren't all that flash from what I've seen, especially some of the 80 ones. Generally got to throw a rock under them just to hold them there on a steep hill with the handbrake on. Don't forget spare points and condensers. Well, lucky I don't have to worry about that. But if you've got one of those really old school motors where you're talking about points and condensers, you might want to carry some spares of those and a can of WD-40 for any of those river crossings on those sort of motors with those sort of things, that's for sure. We're getting right into it now. Drive Toyota, so I must always take spare in case I drink it. Well, if your vehicle's breaking down a lot, you might want to carry some spare alcohol to get you through the night until someone comes and get you. That's for sure. A couple of spare stubby holders, a couple of spare ones up there if you want some spare stubby holders, and just keep those beers cold. That's for sure. There's no worry about that. Actually, fuse is the other one which is in that box. I do carry some spare fuses. Just keep those in the lid here, especially the big main ones. Just a couple of the smaller ones there. I do carry spare fuses just to get me out of trouble if something is to go wrong. You don't want to have to go joining a broken fuse together with a bit of silver paper or anything like that, because that's got danger written all over it. Punch repair kits is also handy, absolutely. Blue tack, and blue tack's pretty good for putting if you get a hole in your fuel tanks, that sort of stuff, really good for that sort of thing too. So and the cloth tape, all that sort of stuff is really, really good. especially this stuff here, that gaffer tape, top-notch stuff, and duct tape. Tell you what you can't fix with a roll of duct tape. Not worth fixing, I don't reckon. Duct tape, wire, and zip ties fixes most things if you go and break it out in the bush. I'm not sure what spares to take in a 2020 Ranger. Well, fairly new vehicle, mate, but you might just do a little bit of homework on, again, just some of the things that potentially could go wrong with it, like your belts. And look, I don't think it doesn't matter how old your vehicle is. You'd always still take spare hoses and spare belts and all those sort of things, just some of the basic stuff, and hopefully you get through all right. When's your next solo vid, Wes? I'm actually editing it at the moment, trying to get that one finished for next Monday night. Yeah, not a bad trip it was. So yeah, we'll see how that one goes. G'day, El. How you going there, mate? Yeah, we spoke a few weeks ago. How you going up there? Hopefully things going right for you, mate. Nicole, wheel bearings wheel bearings are certainly another one. If you again, if you're going to be looking to do any of these really remote stuff, yeah, spare wheel bearings is certainly a good one, especially if you're going to do a lot of river crossings and sort of stuff. And if your wheel bearings go season and you haven't got a spare set, well, yeah, you're in a world of trouble if you can't get hold of another set pretty quickly, that's for sure. Good old bush mechanics, yeah, look, really handy, mate, if you're any good at the old bush mechanics, that's for sure. To where you can fix all this stuff on the side of the road. Recently got a battery monitor with the phone app. Yeah, it monitors batteries real time. Battery management is probably a good thing, which I've got a couple of gauges in the dash of my patrol there, so I can get live readouts of what my batteries are actually doing. Spare trowel. I don't need a spare one. I've got one there, and that's the only one I need for tipping over my bacon eggs in the morning. That's for sure. Carry a couple of nudity mag. No, I don't know if I want to carry a couple of those. You might, mate, but no, I certainly don't. Couple of my spare meat pies. Yeah, look, always good spare meat pies, mate. You just never know if you get in trouble out there. Don't need some good tucker. Jumper leads. Jumper leads is another one, but the only reason why I sort of don't carry jumper leads, look, if you're especially going away with a few people, you can always jump, unless you've got an automatic, I suppose, and you can't jump start one of those. But mighty manuals, you just got to chuck them in gear and get a quick tow, and you can always jump start a manual. But yeah, if you're going away with a bunch of automatics, well, then yeah, you might want to look at some sort of starter packs or whatever, or jumper leads. So in case one of you guys end up with a flat battery next morning, because yeah, you're in a world of trouble if you can't give it a push start. That's sure with an automatic. Righto. Well, I think that sort of covers a fair bit of that stuff. There's, let's say, a few things there with the old GU issues with the belts and air conditioning pumps and that sort of stuff. But I think we've covered it all. But big one, make sure your regos and insurances are well up to date. And this is all stuff you check before you even drive out on your trip. You know, get it all done well and truly beforehand, and start planning and start looking at your stuff well before you've got to go away, and give yourself plenty of time to fix anything and get it all sorted, before you head off. Well, there you go, guys. I think that might wrap that one up, and we might catch you guys next week when I start talking about the about 10-day trip is going to be, but we'll do it over a couple of weeks. We'll break it in half, and we're going to talk about time frames, camp spots, how many days, tracks, you name it. We're going to cover the lot over the next 2 weeks, and it's going to take it from Mansfield right through to Tom Grogan there in New South Wales. So stay tuned for the next few weeks for that one, and we'll catch up with you then. And you guys have a good week, and thanks very much for tuning in tonight. Good feedback. Good on you guys. Biggles, finally got on there. Biggles, how are you, mate? Good to see you. Who do I insure with? I'm with Club 4x4 at the moment, and so far I've never needed to use them, but yeah, they've been pretty good, I think, until we need to claim with them. But yeah, they cover my vehicle and all my accessories, so that's one of the main reasons I'll be with them. But until I make a claim, I'll let you know then. Hopefully I don't ever have to. But good on you guys. Thanks very much for coming in. Greatly appreciate it. Catch you next time. Have a good week. Hooroo.